I woke up in a hospital bed 3 months after falling into a coma, and the first thing my son said to me wasn't, "Thank God you're alive," or "I missed you, Mom." He said, "I gave the house to Linda's parents. I thought you were going to die." Just like that. No apology, no hesitation. As if my entire life, everything I had built with my own hands, meant absolutely nothing the moment he decided I was no longer useful. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. Please leave a comment below and tell me where you're watching this from. Your city, your country. I need to know I'm not alone in this. That somewhere out there, someone understands what it feels like to be betrayed by the person you gave everything to. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 62 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. Or at least I used to. For 35 years, I worked as a real estate broker. I built my career from nothing, started with a tiny office downtown, and turned it into one of the most respected agencies in the Pacific Northwest. I never remarried after my husband died when our son Daniel was only 8 years old. I raised that boy alone. I put him through college. I helped him start his own business. I bought him his first car. I paid for his wedding to Linda 4 years ago. Everything I did, every decision I made, was for him. I lived in a beautiful craftsman-style home in the Alameda neighborhood. 4 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, a garden I tended every spring. That house wasn't just property to me. It was where I raised Daniel, where I celebrated every birthday, every holiday, where I planned to grow old, surrounded by memories of a life well lived. The house was paid off. It was mine, completely and legally mine. Daniel and Linda lived about 20 minutes away in a modest apartment. They seemed happy enough, though I always felt Linda was a bit too interested in my finances. She would ask questions during family dinners. Casual questions, but pointed. "Margaret, have you thought about what happens to the house if something happens to you?" Or, "Do you have a will? You should really update that, just in case." I would laugh it off, change the subject. I didn't want to think about death. I was healthy, active, planning trips to Europe I'd been putting off for years. Then, in late February, everything changed. I was driving home from a property showing when a truck ran a red light and hit my car on the driver's side. The impact was catastrophic. I don't remember much after that, just flashes. The sound of metal crunching, glass everywhere, then darkness. Complete and total darkness. I later learned I'd suffered severe head trauma. The doctors induced a coma to reduce brain swelling. They told my son there was no guarantee I would wake up, that I might never wake up, that he should prepare himself for the worst. Daniel became my medical proxy. He had access to my bank accounts through a power of attorney I'd signed years ago, back when he was younger, and I trusted him completely. It was supposed to be for emergencies, a safeguard in case I ever became incapacitated. I never imagined he would use it the way he did. While I was lying in that hospital bed, unconscious and fighting for my life, Daniel made decisions, big decisions, decisions that would destroy everything I'd spent decades building. But I didn't know that yet. Not when I first opened my eyes in that sterile hospital room. Not when I saw his face hovering over me with that strange expression I couldn't quite read. The first few days after waking up were a blur. Doctors running tests, nurses checking vitals, physical therapists helping me relearn how to walk without stumbling. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. Everything hurt. My head throbbed constantly. But I was alive. Against all odds, I was alive. And all I wanted was to go home, to sleep in my own bed, to see my garden, to start rebuilding my life. Daniel visited every day, but something was different. He wouldn't look me directly in the eyes. He kept checking his phone. Linda came with him once, and she seemed nervous, fidgeting with her purse, making excuses to leave early. I asked Daniel several times when I could go home, and he would change the subject. "Let's just focus on your recovery, Mom. One step at a time." It was my friend Patricia who first raised the alarm. She'd been trying to drop off some groceries at my house and found strangers living there, an older couple she didn't recognize. They told her the house belonged to them now, that they'd moved in over a month ago. Patricia called me at the hospital, frantic. "Margaret, what's going on? Who are these people in your house?" I didn't understand. I thought there must be some mistake, some confusion. But when I confronted Daniel that evening, he finally told me the truth. Told me in the most casual, matter-of-fact tone I'd ever heard. "I gave the house to Linda's parents. I thought you were going to die. They needed a place to live and you weren't using it. It made sense." I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't catch my breath. A nurse had to come in and check my oxygen levels. I felt like I was drowning, like the room was closing in around me. "You gave away my house?" I whispered. "How? That's my property. My name is on the deed." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "You signed a power of attorney, remember? I had legal authority to make decisions on your behalf. The doctor said you probably weren't going to make it. Linda's parents were about to be evicted from their apartment. They had nowhere to go. It seemed like the right thing to do. I even transferred the deed into their name to make it official. They're retired, Mom. They needed stability." I stared at my son, this man I'd raised, this person I'd sacrificed everything for, and I didn't recognize him. "You transferred the deed? While I was in a coma? You stole my house and gave it to your in-laws?" He had the audacity to look offended. "I didn't steal anything. I made a practical decision during a crisis. You would have done the same thing if you were thinking clearly. Besides, it's not like you need that big house anymore. You're going to need assisted living after this, somewhere with medical staff. The house would have just been a burden." That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't panic or grief clouding his judgment. This was calculated, planned. He had decided I was going to die, and he'd started dismantling my life before my heart even stopped beating. And the worst part? He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. I told him to leave. I told him I never wanted to see him again. He left the hospital room shaking his head like I was the one being unreasonable, like I was the problem, and I was left alone in that bed, physically broken and emotionally shattered, trying to figure out what to do next. The next morning, I called my attorney. Richard Chen had been handling my legal affairs for 15 years. He was shocked when I explained what had happened. "Margaret, a power of attorney doesn't give someone the right to gift your property to third parties. That's not what that document is for, especially not while you're still alive. This is fraud, potentially elder abuse. We need to act immediately." Richard visited me in the hospital that afternoon with a stack of documents. We went through everything. The power of attorney I'd signed years ago was limited in scope. It allowed Daniel to pay bills, manage accounts, make medical decisions. It did not give him the authority to transfer ownership of real estate. What he'd done was illegal, completely and utterly illegal. But proving it and getting my house back would be complicated. Richard filed an emergency motion to invalidate the deed transfer. He also froze all my bank accounts that Daniel still had access to. When we pulled the records, we discovered he'd withdrawn over $70,000 in the 3 months I was in a coma. $70,000. Money I'd saved for retirement. Money that was supposed to sustain me for years. He'd cleaned out my savings account, my investment account, even my emergency fund. The only account he hadn't touched was a trust fund I'd set up years ago that he didn't know existed. I felt sick, physically sick. This wasn't just about a house anymore. This was systematic theft. This was my son, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world, stealing my life out from under me while I was helpless. And he'd done it without a shred of guilt or remorse. The hospital social worker connected me with a case manager who specialized in elder financial abuse. Her name was Sharon, and she'd seen cases like mine before. Too many cases. She explained that adult children exploiting aging parents was far more common than people realized, that families often covered it up out of shame or denial, that the legal system was slow to respond because these cases were complex and emotionally charged. Sharon helped me file a police report. She documented everything. the unauthorized deed transfer, the missing money, the fact that Daniel had made these decisions while I was medically incapacitated and unable to consent or object. She connected me with a forensic accountant who started tracing where my money had gone. It turned out Daniel had used some of it to pay off his business debts. Some had gone to Linda's credit cards. The rest had simply disappeared into their joint checking account. I was released from the hospital 3 weeks after waking up. I had nowhere to go. My house was occupied by Linda's parents, who refused to leave and claimed they had legal ownership. I ended up staying with Patricia, sleeping in her guest room, feeling like a refugee in my own city. I was 62 years old, recovering from a traumatic brain injury, and essentially homeless because my own son had betrayed me. Richard worked around the clock. He filed motions. He gathered evidence. He deposed Daniel and Linda, who both stuck to their story that they'd acted in good faith, that they'd believed I was going to die, that they'd made reasonable decisions under extreme circumstances. Linda's parents claimed they'd paid Daniel for the house, though they couldn't produce any documentation of payment. It was all lies. Obvious, transparent lies. But proving it in court would take time. Meanwhile, I started noticing things. Strange things. Daniel began showing up places I was, outside Patricia's house, at my physical therapy appointments. Once, I saw his car parked down the street from the coffee shop where I met with Richard. He wasn't approaching me or saying anything, just watching. It felt like surveillance, like he was keeping tabs on me. Patricia noticed it too. "Margaret, this isn't normal. He's stalking you. You need to document this. Take pictures. Keep a log." So I did. Every time I saw him, I noted the date, time, and location. I took photos when I could. The pattern was undeniable. He was following me. Then the phone calls started. Late at night, early morning, unknown numbers. When I answered, no one would speak, just breathing, just silence. Then the line would go dead. It happened a dozen times over 2 weeks. I changed my number. The calls stopped for a few days, then started again. Someone was harassing me, and I had a pretty good idea who. Richard advised me to get a restraining order. We filed the paperwork, and a judge granted a temporary order prohibiting Daniel from coming within 500 feet of me. The court date for the full hearing was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, the judge ordered Daniel to stay away. He violated it within 3 days. I was leaving a medical appointment downtown when I saw him standing across the street, just standing there, staring at me. I called the police immediately. They came, took my statement, but by the time they arrived, Daniel was gone. There was no proof he'd been there except my word. The officer said they would add it to the report, but that I needed to be careful. "Sometimes these situations escalate," he warned, "especially when money is involved. Watch your back." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, about how the son I'd raised, the boy I'd loved unconditionally, had become this stranger capable of stealing from me, lying to me, threatening me. I wondered where I'd gone wrong, what I'd missed, what signs I'd ignored. But the truth was, I hadn't missed anything. Some people are just capable of profound betrayal when they think they can get away with it, when they think you're weak and vulnerable and won't fight back. But I wasn't weak. I was angry, furious, actually, and I was going to fight back with everything I had, because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every parent who trusted their children, every person who signed a power of attorney thinking it would protect them, only to have it weaponized against them. This was about justice. The forensic accountant Richard hired uncovered more evidence. Daniel had opened credit cards in my name while I was in a coma. He'd taken out a line of credit against my house before transferring the deed. He'd forged my signature on multiple documents. This wasn't just theft. This was identity fraud. This was criminal. Richard presented all of this to the district attorney's office. They agreed to open a criminal investigation. Detectives interviewed Daniel, Linda, and Linda's parents. The detectives also subpoenaed bank records, phone records, email accounts. The evidence was overwhelming. But Daniel still wouldn't admit wrongdoing. He hired his own attorney, some expensive defense lawyer who specialized in white-collar crime, and they started building a defense based on misunderstanding and good intentions. Meanwhile, Linda's parents continued living in my house. They'd changed the locks. They'd removed my belongings and put them in storage without telling me. When Richard finally got a court order allowing me to retrieve my personal items, I found many things missing or damaged. Family photos, jewelry, my grandmother's china, gone, destroyed, thrown away like garbage. I stood in that storage unit, surrounded by boxes of my life, and I broke down. I sobbed. I screamed. I cursed Daniel's name. Patricia held me while I fell apart. "He's not going to get away with this," she promised. "We're going to make sure he pays for what he's done." The court hearing for the deed transfer came first. Richard presented our evidence. The power of attorney that didn't authorize property transfers. The lack of any payment from Linda's parents. The timing of everything, done while I was in a coma and unable to consent. Daniel's attorney argued that his client had acted in good faith, that he'd believed I was going to die, that he'd tried to help Linda's parents during a difficult time. The judge wasn't buying it. "Mr. Hayes," the judge said, looking directly at Daniel, "a power of attorney is a sacred trust. Your mother gave you that authority believing you would use it to protect her interests, not to strip her of her assets. What you did was not only unethical, it was illegal. I'm invalidating the deed transfer immediately. The property belongs to Mrs. Hayes. Linda's parents have 30 days to vacate." Daniel's face went red. He started to argue, but his attorney grabbed his arm and pulled him back down into his seat. The judge continued. "Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. This court finds clear evidence of fraud, theft, and elder abuse. Bailiff, please ensure Mr. Hayes understands he is not to contact his mother or approach her property under any circumstances." I felt vindicated, relieved, but also empty. Because even though I'd won, even though justice was being served, I'd lost something that could never be returned. I'd lost my son. The person he used to be, or the person I thought he was, no longer existed. In his place was this stranger who tried to steal my life. Linda's parents moved out of my house 3 weeks later. They left it in terrible condition. Holes in the walls, stains on the carpets, broken fixtures. It took another month and $15,000 to repair the damage. But it was mine again. I moved back in on a warm day in September, 7 months after the accident that had started this nightmare. The criminal case proceeded slowly. Daniel was charged with multiple counts of fraud, theft, identity theft, and elder abuse. Linda was charged as an accomplice. Linda's parents faced charges for knowingly receiving stolen property. The trial didn't start until the following spring. It lasted 2 weeks. I had to testify. I had to sit on that witness stand and look at Daniel across the courtroom and explain what he'd done to me, how he'd stolen from me, how he'd betrayed me, how he'd taken advantage of my vulnerability. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, harder than burying my husband, harder than waking up from a coma. Because this wasn't an accident or an illness. This was deliberate cruelty from someone who was supposed to love me. Daniel never showed remorse. Not once during the entire trial. He sat there with his arms crossed, looking annoyed, like this was all a massive inconvenience. Like I was the problem for daring to hold him accountable. Linda cried on the stand, claiming she didn't know what Daniel was doing, that she'd trusted him. The jury didn't believe her. The verdict came back guilty on all counts. Daniel was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Linda got 3 years. Linda's parents received probation and were ordered to pay restitution. The judge also ordered Daniel to repay every dollar he'd stolen, plus interest, plus my legal fees. It totaled over $200,000. Money he didn't have, money he'd never have. I should have felt satisfaction, victory. But mostly I just felt tired, exhausted, hollowed out. I'd won the legal battle, but the emotional cost was incalculable. I'd lost my son. I'd lost my sense of safety. I'd lost the naive belief that family meant something sacred and unbreakable. In the months after the trial, I started speaking publicly about what had happened to me. I did interviews with local news stations. I wrote articles for legal journals. I spoke at senior centers and community groups. I wanted other people to understand the risks, to protect themselves, to know that power of attorney documents needed strict limitations, to understand that trust, even family trust, could be weaponized. I met other victims, so many other victims. Adult children who'd emptied their parents' bank accounts, caregivers who'd forged signatures on wills, family members who'd isolated aging relatives and stolen everything. The stories were heartbreaking and far too common. Elder financial abuse costs Americans billions of dollars every year, and most cases are never reported because victims are too ashamed or too afraid. I also met people who wanted to help. Attorneys who took on cases pro bono, social workers who connected victims with resources, police officers who specialized in these crimes. Together, we formed a network, a support system, a way to fight back against the people who preyed on vulnerable seniors. Daniel writes me letters from prison. I don't read them. Patricia offered to read them for me, to tell me if there was anything important, but I told her to throw them away. Whatever he has to say, I don't want to hear it. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some wounds never heal. And I've accepted that. I've made peace with the fact that my son is dead to me. The person he became is not someone I can love or trust or even recognize. I'm 63 now, a year older than when this nightmare began. My hair is grayer. My hands shake sometimes. I still have headaches from the brain injury, but I'm alive. I'm in my home. I'm surrounded by friends who stood by me when my own family abandoned me. And I'm using my experience to help others avoid the same fate. If you're watching this and you're thinking about signing a power of attorney, please be careful. Make sure it has strict limitations. Make sure multiple people have copies. Make sure someone you trust independently can review any major decisions. Don't assume your family will do the right thing. Don't assume love is enough. Because sometimes it isn't. Sometimes people surprise you in the worst possible ways. And if you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed you, if you feel helpless and lost, please know this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. What happened to you is real, and it's not your fault. Fight back. Document everything. Find a good attorney. File reports. Press charges. Don't let them get away with it, because they're counting on you being too scared or too tired or too ashamed to fight. Prove them wrong. I think about my son sometimes. Not the man he became, but the boy he used to be. The kid who brought me dandelions from the yard, who cried when his goldfish died, who hugged me so tight after his father's funeral and whispered, "I'll take care of you, Mom, I promise." I mourn that boy. I grieve for who he could have been. But I can't change what happened. I can only move forward. My house feels different now. It's still beautiful, still filled with memories. But there's a shadow over everything, a reminder that safety is an illusion, that the people closest to you can hurt you the most. I've installed security cameras, changed all my locks, updated all my passwords. I've revised my will and my power of attorney. I've made sure that if something happens to me again, no single person has complete control. I've also reconnected with distant cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. I've built new relationships. I've joined a book club. I volunteer at the senior center where I first started speaking about my experience. I'm rebuilding my life, piece by piece. It's slow. It's painful. But it's mine. No one can take that from me again. Sometimes people ask me if I regret having Daniel, if I wish I'd done things differently. The answer is complicated. I don't regret the years I spent loving him and raising him. I don't regret the sacrifices I made, but I do regret not seeing the warning signs earlier. The entitlement, the lack of empathy, the way he always seemed to calculate what he could gain from situations. Maybe those traits were always there, buried beneath the surface. Maybe I chose not to see them, because acknowledging them would have meant admitting my son wasn't the person I wanted him to be. Patricia tells me I'm too hard on myself, that parents can't predict how their children will turn out, that I did everything right and Daniel made his own choices. Maybe she's right. Maybe I need to forgive myself for trusting him, for believing he loved me the way I loved him, for assuming family bonds were stronger than greed. What I know for certain is this: I survived. Against all odds, I woke up from that coma. I fought back against someone who tried to erase me. I refused to be a victim. And I'm still here, still fighting, still speaking out. Because my story matters. Because the next person targeted by their own family deserves to know they can fight back. They can win. They can reclaim their life. 5 years have passed since the trial ended, and I'm sitting on my porch on a cool October evening, watching the maple leaves turn gold and crimson in the fading light. I'm 68 years old now. My hair is completely silver. I move a bit slower than I used to. But I'm here. I'm alive. And I've learned more about strength, betrayal, and forgiveness in these last 5 years than in all the decades that came before. Daniel was released from prison 8 months ago. He served 4.5 years of his 6-year sentence, getting out early for good behavior. I heard about his release through Richard, my attorney, who still checks in on me regularly. Daniel tried to contact me immediately after getting out. Letters, emails, messages left with mutual acquaintances. All of them said the same thing. He was sorry, he wanted to make amends. He hoped we could reconcile. I didn't respond to any of them. Patricia thought I was being too harsh. Margaret, he's your son. Maybe prison changed him. Maybe he's genuinely sorry. But I couldn't forget what he'd done. Not just the theft or the fraud, but the coldness in his eyes when he told me he'd given away my house. The complete lack of remorse. The way he'd watched me struggle and fought against me every step of the way. Some things break trust so completely that no amount of apology can repair it. Linda divorced him while he was in prison. She moved to Arizona with a new boyfriend and changed her name. I heard she wanted nothing to do with the whole situation anymore. Linda's parents both passed away within 2 years of the trial. Her father had a heart attack. Her mother followed 6 months later from pneumonia. Part of me felt guilty for feeling relieved when I heard they were gone. But mostly I just felt empty. So much damage. So many lives destroyed. All because of greed and entitlement. The restitution payments come sporadically. Daniel got a job at a warehouse making minimum wage. The court ordered him to pay me $500 a month, but he rarely manages the full amount. Sometimes it's $200, sometimes nothing at all. Richard could take him back to court for violation of the restitution order, but I told him not to bother. The money doesn't matter anymore. I have enough to live on. My real estate investments recovered. My retirement accounts are stable. What I lost can't be measured in dollars. What surprised me most in these years was discovering I wasn't unique. After my story went public, hundreds of people reached out to me. Elderly parents who'd been financially abused by their children, siblings who'd stolen inheritances, caregivers who'd drained bank accounts. The stories were horrifyingly similar. Adult children who felt entitled to their parents' money, who saw aging parents as obstacles rather than people, who justified theft as early inheritance or practical planning. I started a nonprofit organization 3 years ago called Silver Shield. We provide free legal consultations for seniors who suspect financial abuse. We connect victims with attorneys, forensic accountants, and law enforcement. We educate people about protective measures they can take before crisis strikes. We've helped recover over $3 million for victims in our state alone. We've seen 27 abusers prosecuted and convicted. It's become my life's work, my purpose, turning my pain into something that protects others. I speak at conferences now, legal conferences, medical conferences, senior advocacy groups. I tell my story over and over, and each time it gets a little easier. The shame has faded. I've realized I have nothing to be ashamed of. I trusted my son because that's what mothers do. What he did with that trust was his choice, not my failure. That distinction took me years to understand, but it's freed me from so much guilt. The house feels like home again. I repainted everything, replaced the carpets, planted new flowers in the garden. I erased every trace of the people who violated my space. Sometimes I walk through the rooms and remember Daniel as a child. His bedroom upstairs where he used to build elaborate structures with blocks. The kitchen where I taught him to make pancakes. The living room where we watched movies on Friday nights. Those memories coexist with the betrayal now. I've learned they can both be true. I can grieve the boy I loved while accepting the man he became. I've also learned about forgiveness, though not in the way people expect. I haven't forgiven Daniel for what he did. I don't know if I ever will, but I've forgiven myself for not seeing it coming, for trusting too much, for being vulnerable, for getting old, for falling into a coma and becoming the inconvenient problem he needed to solve. None of that was my fault. I know that now. Patricia is still my closest friend. She moved into the guest house behind my property 2 years ago after her husband died. We have coffee together every morning. We garden together. We travel together, taking the trips I always dreamed about. We went to Italy last spring, Paris the year before. Next year we're planning Ireland. I'm living the retirement I worked so hard for, just with a different companion than I'd imagined. The advocacy work has introduced me to remarkable people. Other survivors who've transformed their trauma into activism. Attorneys who take on these cases because they believe in justice. Social workers who dedicate their careers to protecting vulnerable adults. Law enforcement officers who treat elder abuse with the seriousness it deserves. Together, we're changing laws. We've helped pass legislation in 3 states that strengthens protections for seniors. That limits the scope of power of attorney documents. That requires mandatory reporting of suspected financial abuse. We're making a difference. Sometimes late at night, I still wonder what I could have done differently. Should I have been stricter with Daniel as a child? Should I have required him to work harder for what he received? Should I have noticed the entitlement growing? But I know these questions have no answers. Every parent does their best with the knowledge they have. Some children grow up grateful and loving. Others grow up selfish and cruel. You can't always predict which way they'll turn. What I've learned is that betrayal by family is uniquely devastating because it violates our most fundamental beliefs about love and loyalty. We expect strangers might hurt us. We build walls against the world, but we let family inside those walls. We trust them with our vulnerabilities, our resources, our hearts. When they weaponize that trust, the wound goes deeper than any other. It shakes your entire understanding of relationships and safety. But I've also learned that healing is possible. Not forgetting, not excusing, but moving forward. Building a new life from the wreckage of the old one. Finding purpose in the pain. Connecting with others who understand. Creating boundaries that protect you without isolating you. It's been the hardest work of my life, this healing. Harder than building my business. Harder than raising a child alone. But it's been worth it. I received a letter from Daniel last month. It came to Silver Shield's office address, which means he'd been looking for me. Richard wanted to screen it first, but I told him I'd read it myself. I needed to know if anything had changed. The letter was 4 pages long. He talked about prison, about therapy sessions he'd attended, about realizing he'd been entitled and selfish, about understanding, finally, the magnitude of what he'd done. He said he didn't expect forgiveness. He just wanted me to know he was sorry, that he thought about me every day, that he wished he could undo everything. I read the letter 3 times. I looked for signs of manipulation, for excuses, for blame shifting. I didn't find any. The letter seemed genuine, remorseful, but I still couldn't respond. Because even if his regret is real, even if he's genuinely changed, I can't go back. I can't resurrect the relationship we had. That mother and son died when he said, "I thought you were going to die," without a trace of shame in his voice. What exists now is just ghosts and memories. Maybe someday I'll be able to face him, to have a conversation, to hear his apology in person. But that day isn't today. Maybe it'll never come, and I've made peace with that. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. It's not something you owe to people who've harmed you, even if they're family, especially if they're family. You get to decide what healing looks like for you. You get to set boundaries that protect your peace. And no one has the right to tell you you're wrong for choosing yourself. The work I do now gives me hope. Every senior we help protect from financial abuse is a victory. Every family we educate about warning signs is prevention. Every law we help pass is progress. The system is still imperfect. Too many abusers go unpunished. Too many victims never report because they're ashamed or scared or don't know where to turn. But we're changing that. Slowly. Steadily. One case at a time. I think about all the elderly people out there right now who are being stolen from, manipulated, isolated, abused by the very people who should protect them. I think about how many suffer in silence because admitting your child betrayed you feels like admitting you failed as a parent. I want them to know you didn't fail. They failed. Their choices are not your shame. And you deserve justice. You deserve to fight back. You deserve to reclaim your life. My message to anyone watching this who is facing similar circumstances is simple. Document everything. Trust your instincts, and don't let shame silence you. If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. If your family member is asking suspicious questions about your finances, pay attention. If someone is pressuring you to sign documents you don't fully understand, refuse until you've consulted an independent attorney. If you wake up one day and realize you've been betrayed, fight back with everything you have. You are not alone. Resources exist. People care. Justice is possible. And to the adult children out there who are caring for aging parents with integrity and love, thank you. Thank you for being the people my son should have been. Thank you for honoring the trust your parents have placed in you. Thank you for seeing them as human beings worthy of dignity and respect, not as assets to be managed or problems to be solved. You are making a difference in ways you may never fully realize. As I sit here on my porch, watching the sun set over the neighborhood I've lived in for 35 years, I feel something I didn't think I'd feel again. Contentment. Not happiness exactly. The scars are too deep for uncomplicated happiness. But contentment, peace, a sense that my life has meaning and purpose, that I've survived something terrible and used it to help others, that I've transformed betrayal into advocacy, pain into power, victimhood into agency. I'm 68 years old. I've been betrayed by my only child. I've lost relationships I thought were unbreakable. I've learned that safety is fragile and trust is precious. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew, that I can rebuild from ruins, that I can turn the worst experience of my life into something that protects and empowers others. And that's enough. It has to be enough. So I'll keep telling my story. I'll keep fighting for seniors who can't fight for themselves. I'll keep pushing for legal reforms and better protections. I'll keep living my life with the fullness and joy I can manage, despite everything. Because that's what survivors do. We don't let betrayal define us. We don't let cruelty break us. We stand up. We speak out. We move forward. And we never, ever stop fighting for what's right. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 68 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. And this is my story. Not of a victim, but of a survivor. Not of the end, but of a new beginning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And please, take care of yourselves and each other. Because in this world, that's what really matters.